1,000th of 1/1,000,000,000,000th.
Look at that number. And that is just a conservative estimate of the statistical probability that life as we know it would just exist by chance. So if you look at this number and you ask yourself, that's a crazy probability. As a matter of fact, you have a better chance, if you want to believe that all this came together by just random processes and chance, you have a better chance of going out here tonight and winning the lottery. So I encourage you something to do that. And did you know, just statistically, you have a better chance of getting struck 5 times by lightning on your way home for buying that lottery ticket than you have of winning the lottery. So be careful. My point in saying all that is that the statistical probability is so slim that I just want to level the playing field here, to suggest that Christians, as the Talking Point campus have suggested, are somehow inferior intellectually because they've placed their faith in some sort of deistic being or cosmic dictator that's been chalked prevalent. I feel like the statistics are certainly in favor of the Christian having the least amount of faith in this particular situation. Now, last but not least, we've looked out into the recesses of the universe and seen that the universe had a beginning. That's science. We've seen that just for the sheer statistical probability that life as we know it is so slim that it's by random chance that it takes greater faith to believe that than that it was actually designed that way. And now we're going to take a look at a microscope and look into the human cell and expound upon the DNA. And when you see this information encoded in each DNA, I want you to ask yourself, again, is this random chance or intelligent design?
An explanation for the origin of the genetic instructions needed to build the first life is the holy grail of 21st century biology. Theories proposing that this information arose through natural selection acting upon non-living molecules, or the self-organizing power of chemicals in a primordial soup, have repeatedly failed. Even time and blind chance, the oft-invoked saviors of implausible biological scenarios, have fallen far short as accounts for the source of the instructions in DNA. Mathematicians, for example, have calculated that a universe filled with monkeys, typing relentlessly throughout the oldest estimated age of the cosmos, would have no realistic chance of producing Shakespeare's play Hamlet, let alone a transcript of the genetic information required to build even the simplest living cell.
Based on our uniform and repeated experience, which is the basis of all scientific reasoning about the past, there is only one known cause for the origin of information, and that cause is intelligence. Whether we're looking at a hieroglyphic inscription, a section of text in a book, or a computer software, if you have information and you trace it back to its source, invariably you come to an intelligence. Therefore, when you find information inscribed along the backbone of the DNA molecule in the cell, the most rational inference, based on our repeated experience, is that an intelligence of some kind played a role in the origin of that information.
The implications of the scientific evidence, coupled with Meyer's logic, are profound. If we are finding information inside every cell and every living creature, could that not be, in a sense, the signature of a creator?
I certainly think that the logical implications of so much information wrapped up in just the smallest structure we know, well, I'm sorry, not but one of the smallest structures we know, implies intelligence and design, not chance. You know, Clay, throw me that book there, buddy. All right. This is a book. Let's say you're just walking down the street and you find it. You pick it up. Now, do you say to yourself, oh my gosh, would you look at this? This ink just miraculously landed on this paper, and look at all this meaning that the ink has on the paper. No. And the ink doesn't have meaning. The paper doesn't have meaning. Even the words don't contain that meaning. There's information behind the words that you infer. And you are able to understand this because you are an intelligent being. This is the case for DNA. Where did this intelligence come from in our body? Now, it's like you're, just imagine this scenario, if that didn't click with you. You're walking down the street, and all of a sudden you see on your right a little triangular rock, and it's shaped like an arrowhead. You say, oh my gosh, it's an arrowhead. So you pick it up, and you're like, this is an amazing design. I wonder what Indian made this. Then you look over to your left, and you're like, oh my gosh, a human brain. And you think, isn't that a crazy product of chance? You're starting to see? You're bleeding here. You're bleeding here. There's implications that are keeping you from going clearly where the evidence leads. And remember, my goal tonight is that if you're willing to go where the evidence leads, you'll find the truth. And it's going to take you to a creator named God. Thank you.
For the rebuttal segment, each participant will have 10 minutes. Just let me know when you're ready to start.
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to go down a laundry list of points that he made. Creationists have a habit of kind of throwing things up against the wall to see what's going to stick. I used to be a creationist, by the way. I became an atheist while I was in seminary studying to be a Presbyterian minister, specifically because I did study the evidence and got very deeply into it and found out that the evidence did not support what I've been told that it supported. So let's just go kind of down the laundry list. First of all, they said very clearly a couple of times, everything has to have a cause. Everything has to have a cause. Who caused God? If everything has to have a cause. They also, can you turn it down a little? They also postulated that something outside of the universe had to cause the universe. Now this is speculation. It doesn't have any proof. They just assume that since everything has a cause and God somehow has to cause things, then they would have to assume that God has caused the universe, which is just an assertion they made without any proof whatsoever. Third, they made a misstatement of fact. The universe is finite, they said. The observable universe is finite. The universe itself is not finite. In fact, those of us, like me, who read Scientific American, you see a lot of talk now about multiverses, different dimensions where universes may be bouncing into each other and causing big bangs and that kind of thing. So that is just a complete misstatement of fact. Another thing that they talked about, and this is something that creationists do a lot, they will talk about the generalities of God. If we have a universe, if we have a planet, if we have life, then God somewhere had to cause that. Well, what kind of God are they talking about? Well, they always try to bring up the book of Genesis. The problem with Genesis, of course, is if you add up the begats in Genesis, you get something that's relatively recent. Christian scholars, go for Reference Bible and so forth, say it's about 4004 BC. Jewish scholars say that it's actually about 3700 BC. You can go to the Baptist bookstore, which they now call Lifeway Christian bookstores. They did a marketing study and decided that Baptist shouldn't be in the name anymore. So if you go to Lifeway Christian bookstores, you can buy a chart that says less than 10,000 years or so, plus or minus. Well, if that's true, they mentioned astronomers, which is very interesting that they would do that, because astronomers provide some of the most profound proof of the age of the universe. How fast does light travel? Any of you physics people?
3 times 10
meters per second, 6 trillion miles a year, right? Approximately. Give or take a few million miles, okay? If that's true, why can, if the universe was created by God, as it says in the book of Genesis, in the fairly recent past, we don't have to do 4004 BC. I'll give them 5 or 10,000 years. Let's say it's 10,000. Let's say it's 15,000 years before the Common Era. Why can we see stars that are more than 6,000, 10,000 light years away? We can see the Andromeda Galaxy. We can see a lot of galaxies in the local group. They've been mapped. We know how far away they are because of Cepheid variables and type 1a supernovas, even without using Doppler shifts and Hubble constant, which we can also use to determine their distance. If God created the universe in the recent past, we would not be able to see the Andromeda Galaxy, which was 3 million light years away. In fact, you would be able to see creation going on as you looked back in time. If creation happened 10,000 years ago, then you could look at stars